Welcome to AgriMinds, the podcast where we explore the intersections of personal growth and professional success in the ag industry. I'm Kacee, your host. Thank you for joining me as we dive in to the different strategies and insights that will help you level up your life and career. From mental health to leadership development, we're going to cover it all. So sit back and get ready to grow with AgriMinds. Welcome to another episode of the AgriMinds podcast. Today I've got Shaye with me, and I am so excited for the conversation that we're going to have today. Her and I met on social media a couple months ago, and she's doing some really awesome stuff in the ag industry. Welcome to the AgriMinds podcast, Shaye.
Well, thank you, Kacee. Yeah, first of all, I appreciate you inviting me onto your show. I know I'm a listener, and we met over social media, and I appreciate all your posts and what you're doing for the industry too. So a little bit about myself. My name is Shaye Koester, soon to be Warner, or maybe I'll be Shaye Warner by the time this episode goes out. I don't remember the recording date, but I'm getting married soon. So how are cattle producers consuming information? Like when I started my business, I was 19, and I was like, man, when I look at how my dad and grandpa learn, a lot of it was, talking to the neighbor, going to different conventions, that word of mouth stuff. And I was like, wouldn't it just be cool if we could bring those casual convention conversations to a platform for everyone to hear? And podcasts were starting to become a thing in the ag industry, but I wouldn't say they were as big as they are now, 4 years in. And so I was in an entrepreneurship program. I went to school in Nebraska, even though I'm located in North Dakota. And one of my professors, Dr. Field, was like, maybe you should kind of look at this. And so spent the summer wasting way too much time not starting, but I eventually pushed the button and launched and got a podcast going. And so that's really where it started with, was just the challenge of how can I get ranchers to consume information differently that's more efficient for them and more effective for them. So that's really where it started. And then on my show, I just interview a variety of people, because I don't believe that anyone management practice, anyone path, anyone lifestyle is going to be perfect for everyone. So I'm all about introducing different ideas just to get thoughts rolling.
This is such a big piece, and this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because we are challenging, or maybe just like looking at, can we do things a little bit different? And I know I'm so guilty of, this is the way my dad has done it, this is the way my mom has done things, so that's the way I'm going to do it too. And I'm challenging this in every area, not just the way we farm, but in everything. I will admit I'm a little bit of like a conspiracy theorist, and I just love challenging, like, is this necessary? Do we need to think about things this way? And so talk to me a little bit more about like some of the things that you have found in your conversations that, and you don't have to get into specific topics if you don't want to, but let's just talk a little bit about like, what are some of those things that have been challenged?
In the ranching space, particularly, a lot of it goes back to that treating the operation as a business. But I really think everything goes back to mindset within that, because, we challenge stuff with business management, we challenge stuff with transition planning and all this. And a lot of it comes down to, oh, well, we've been told that as cattle producers or as farmers, like, we're just going to be broke our whole lives because that's just what you do. You live off the land. And it's like, well, who says you can't be wealthy? Who says you can't do things differently so that you are profitable? And so I think that's just a lot of what gets challenged, even just as the bigger picture, because even if I talk about like an episode that talks about a different way of weaning cattle, that's less traditional than what anything you've been told before, right? Maybe you're trying something different, or maybe it's a different way of grazing, or maybe it's combining like a very standard way of one thing that a lot of people do with a unique way of something else. Every time we're challenging that and bringing something new and opening our minds to something and saying, hey, look at the goals of your operation, look what you need, look where you want to go, and then look and see if these different pieces can build your own unique puzzle. We are challenging just why we're doing things and how we get to where we want to be. Because I think, like I brought up earlier, there's so many, it's like, well, grandpa did this. Well, grandpa always said we'd be broke or that we just wouldn't have any money. Or mom and dad always had someone who worked off the job or off the farm full time. So we have to. Like, we're not challenging ourselves enough and creating our businesses in a way for what we want. And sometimes I think if you aren't sure what you want, like that's something I've been focusing a lot in my life and business. It's like, what do I want? I'm reading the book called Rich AF, if you've ever read that. So that's something that gets challenged a lot there is like, what do you want? But sometimes that's hard for me. And so my coach said, she's like, well, if you're not sure what you want, write down what you don't want. What do you not want? And then from there, you will figure out what you actually want because what are you afraid of? What don't you want? Right. And so I think that's really what I try and challenge even in operations ourselves. Like, do you not want an operation where you are relying on your spouse's outside income? Do you not want an operation that is dependent on the bank and you can't sleep at night because of finances? Do you not want an operation that's not producing the highest quality cattle? Or do you want not, you decide what that is. You decide what success looks like in your life, in your business, in your farms, in your ranches. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's none of their business.
You mentioned something about like the stereotype or assumption that every farmer is going to be broke. Like I hear that all the time. Like, oh, you're a farmer. You must like to gamble. You must like taking risks. You must like living in debt. You must like not being able to sleep at night. And like, those are the stereotypes. And it's like, when you look at one farmer who is successful or they're doing something that looks different, oh, they must be cuckoo, or they must have won a lottery, or they must have inherited a crap ton of money. Like there must be something that gave them this advantage. And I really just want to, like, I wish that I knew the answer as to what was going on, but most of the time I believe it does come down to mindset. And I remember when I first started off in my career in agriculture, I come from a very conventional farm. Then I looked at some farms around us that were going organic. And I just remember hearing other farmers saying, like, they're off their rocker. They're doing all these poor things. I don't know how they're making any money. Why are they growing this kind of crop? So many things. And then when I took the time to really just learn about those operations, and I had gotten into a role that allowed me to see like the behind the scenes of why these farmers were motivated to do things in the way that they did, it was challenging the standards. It was challenging the way of doing things. And they didn't have it figured out maybe at the time, but they were willing to test it and see, because they weren't getting the results that they wanted by doing what everybody else was doing. Everybody else was doing the same thing. They were getting all the same results, or at least a varied version of it. And so they wanted to try something new. And even if they were quote unquote failing, they were still doing that process of elimination, like you said, of like, what do you not want? So let's do those things and cross them off the list and say, okay, that's not the result I want. So I'm going to do a different formula now. And I think that that can be applied to so many things. And even in the second half of AgriMinds, the 12-week coaching program, we talk about mindsets and we apply that to every area of our life. Mindsets around money, mindsets around our daily habits, mindsets around what we think work can look like, what our operation should look like. And that is really where people start to have those aha moments. And then we look at the goals that we set at the very beginning of AgriMinds. And when we get to like week 6 and we have those mindset conversations, they're like, my goals have completely changed now. And so I would just love to hear your take on, or your thoughts around what people may experience when they start stepping into challenging these mindsets, what things that they can come up against, and how do you encourage them to test those waters? How do you say, here's something we're going to challenge, and how do you like encourage them to move forward with it?
Well, I want to start off by saying that any business, any farmer ranch, your system should be unique to you. It's not going to look exactly like someone else's. So don't try and exactly copy someone else's in your business, in your life, in anything. You're not meant to copy someone else's. It's great to call people, call those successful people. I bet if you call with an open mind, any one of them will talk to you about what they're doing in any industry. So I want to start by that. But when I think about my own journey with mindset and challenging my mindset and trying to get in a more abundant mindset instead of that scarcity mindset, which I think it's too easy to slip into, a lot of it came, the biggest challenge was, well, what are other people going to think? That is the number one challenge I have faced personally. And I think back to my sophomore year of college when my professor asked me this question. We were going through, it was a 6-week course and it was called Design Your Entrepreneurial Life. And one of the final questions we got asked on the last day of class, we were drawing out these ideal lives, right? Just thinking about it. And it was, if money and what other people thought wasn't an issue, what would you be doing? And so I really think it all comes down to allowing yourself to get in this, I don't want to say Zen, but get in this place where it's like just you, your mind and heart are in the same place. Allow yourself to be there. It's going to take less time than you think, but just write down. It might only take 5 to 15 minutes. It's not going to take you a full hour, but just write down, if money and what other people thought weren't an issue, what would you do? And what you're writing down, it doesn't, don't let the fear like break in, like, oh, I have this big dream, I want to do this. Oh, but you write it down and you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. Just write it down and keep writing, because you don't have to. Maybe it's actually not right, but I guarantee you most of the time it's probably going to make you feel pretty excited once you jot down everything you'd want to do, everything you'd want for your life. And you're going to sit in that feeling and recognize it. And it's a really good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're so right. I know that's held me back from doing a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And on episode 16, it was Jamie Viramontes, and she talked about how she was an entrepreneur and then, gave that up to go work for corporate America. And we talked a lot about how like most people like do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Like they work for a company and they flip the script and leave and go off on their own. And, we talked about how, people may view that, or like, what does that mean? Does that mean you were a failure because you left your entrepreneurial journey to go work for somebody else and you gave up that lifestyle? And I know that has held me back. And I know that, I'm challenging so many things right now. Like I thought success meant having this white picket fence in a subdivision. And like, that was like the American dream. And I had that and it sucked and I was miserable. And I hated every second of, well, not every second of it, but it just was not the lifestyle that I thought I wanted. I left the farm, worked for a big name in ag, had a, great paycheck and all the things. And on paper, it looked amazing. And I missed our farm so much. We were 5.5, 6 hours away from home. We didn't have any friends or family where we lived. And it made me really look at, okay, what is the lifestyle that I want? Like this should look amazing on paper. This is what society says will make me happy. But I was miserable, Shaye. Like I hated every second of it. And so for, several years after that, we were trying to like undo the things that we were doing. And I just talked about this morning of how I climbed this corporate ladder. And over the last couple of years, I'm kind of like climbing back down because I want to get simpler again. But society kind of makes us think that if you don't live a certain lifestyle, or if you don't have certain things, or your house doesn't look a certain way, or you're not into certain things, then you're wrong, or you don't fit in, or you must be crazy, or something's wrong with you. And so, as you encourage people to challenge those mindsets and knowing that they're potentially going to disagree with you, how do you push through that? I know I hear your advice on saying like, you just have to accept that your journey is going to look differently, but what other things can we put in place to help us work through that until we are confident in our decisions?
Well, I think it's important to remember that So for example, like when I graduated from or was getting preparing to graduate from college, my business, it wasn't in a place where it was full time, right? Like I potentially even needed a full-time job. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I had taken a couple corporate internships and I knew I did not want to be corporate. Like I understood what people were saying, but I also knew like it crushed my soul. Like I remember like it was virtual and I remember coming out of my bedroom and that summer I was home from college doing my internship and I just looked at my parents and I was like I just need more autonomy, and they laughed and they're like, "Well, we could have told you that when you were 2. Like we could have told you that, but we just wanted you to figure it out for yourself." And I was like, "Yeah."
Mm.
And I had part of my business was already started at that point, but I just think, when people have been putting those thoughts or trying to their opinions on my life, whether that was like, oh, get another job, go work for someone else, don't take that leap, go work for someone else. Oh, don't go back to your family farm right away because you need to go work for someone else. Don't get married young because you need to live out your own life first. Like all of these things, but yet in my heart, I've always known I wanted to come back to a family farm. I've always known that I wanted to get married and have a family. So when that opportunity with my best friend was in front of me, why would I ever ignore it or why would I delay it? If I can build my own dreams from anywhere because of the wonderful technology we have, why would I move farther away from my family and friends when I need them? And so that's something that I really just had to sit and challenge. And it was tough. I remember asking some of my mentors, like, what am I missing out on by not working for someone else? Because people made it sound like by going out on my own, I was going to chop my network in half. I was going to miss out on these experiences and I was just going to be farther behind in 10 years. And I don't believe that. I believe you know where you need to go and you create your own experiences. So, what I've done when people were expressing their opinions and trying to do that, it got really hard, right? It hit me hard. I took it to heart. But what someone once told me was that you can listen without receiving and absorbing because people are expressing those opinions because they care. They want to help you. They're trying to help you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to confuse you. They think they're helping you. And that means a lot. I mean, you do a lot with mindset, right? So it all comes down to our beliefs on it. So when someone expresses their opinion to me and about my life, what they think I should do, an idea, I can simply respond, "Thank you for caring. I'm going to pray about my decision." That's it. "Thank you for caring. I'm going to pray about my decision." And the other thought I tell myself after we walk away, because maybe it still eats at you a little bit, is that person really cares about me. They're trying to help. What a blessing to have someone to help me out. They want me to be happy. But I know if I need to be happy, I need to listen to myself and God because we're the only two who know what's right. So those are
Yeah.
the thoughts that I put in my mind and the response that I use.
It's a process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you mentioned something else that reminded me of like the whole trade school versus college thing, right? Like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what the next season of life looks like for me as I'm leaving high school. And I hear so many kids saying, like, I just don't want to go to college, or like, I don't know what I want to do. And you're right. And I realize right here in the second, I'm so guilty of being that mentor or that what I thought was words of wisdom to this younger next generation. And the only thing that we can do is hear what other people are saying and take the parts that are important or that matter or mean something to us and apply it in a way that makes sense for us. And really leaning into that trusting your gut type of thing, right? Like I think so many of us have lost that art of being able
Mm-hmm.
to follow our intuition, because you're right, back to what we just talked about. Like we're so concerned about what other people are going to think about us or judge, or this is what everybody else is doing, so if I do something different, I must be doing it wrong. And right now I absolutely encourage people to say, like, if college or a trade school is not the right next step for you, take an internship, do a couple feelers. And I mentioned, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes ago, about Blake Noland, who's a friend of ours that lives in Central Illinois. And he has this business called Bird Dog Workforce, where he has like this job hopper program where you can go and take, like, I think there's 4 jobs. I should probably get the details before I continue to share on this, but I think there's 4 jobs that you get to like taste test. Like you go in and you experience for a couple of weeks, and then you try another one, and it's just this opportunity to get a feel for 4 very different opportunities and see which one makes the most sense. And maybe none of them do, but I just wish that we had the more of those kinds of things, especially within ag, right? Like, I also talked about on this last episode with Jesse Jarvis about, maybe we want to stay in ag, but we just assumed that staying in ag meant being a farmer or a rancher or a farm wife or just being the gopher on the part, like all those things. And it's like, there's so much more to agriculture than just being a farmer or a rancher. Like if you want to be in tech, you can be in tech in ag. If you want to be in marketing and advertising and get creative, you can do that in ag. And we're challenging that. And I think it's so cool that this is becoming more and more of a thing.
Deal. So if they want you to be happy and fulfilled, then you should actually do your own thing. And likewise, if you have people who are not supporting you taking those steps, pruning is a beautiful thing. If you want to eat healthier, hang out with people who are eating healthier. If you want to stop drinking, don't hang out around your bar crowd as much, right? Like, you have to find the right people who are going to support you.
Yes. We talked about the proximity principle in Joelle Orum's episode, which I don't know the number of, but she said the same thing. Like, surround yourself with the people that make sense with who you want to be. And to just go back like 3 sentences ago, you said, here's something I want to do. So I want to tell someone to hold me accountable, but tell someone that's a certain someone, not just anyone, because like you just said, depending on what their beliefs and their mindsets are and their experiences, they could be leading you down the wrong type of path if you aren't very strong in your gut intuition. So my always advice, I always say, find someone who's not emotionally tied to your decisions, emotionally invested in them. Get yourself a neutral third party. And sometimes that means paying someone that knows nothing about you. And that is what I think the power in having a coach is, which is why I love what I do. And that's because I had that. I had sought out so many mentors, and they either knew me or my family, or they were in my job, whatever the thing is, like they were somehow tied to me, or they knew me. And so they're like, well, you're not capable of doing that. So you should probably do this. You enjoy this, so you go do that. No. I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want you to know anything about my past because I don't want that. I don't want to be that person anymore. And so find yourself someone that you can have hold you accountable, who's not emotionally tied, who's neutral and kind of removed a little bit, and, have them hold you accountable. So yes, surround yourself with people who are like who you want to be. And if you are trying to find someone to hold you accountable or share your dreams to, or share your goals to, make sure that they're neutral and not emotionally invested in you.
Absolutely. And I invested in coaching early on, and that was one of the best things I did because it was able to break a lot of beliefs that were instilled in me from how I was raised, which were instilled in my parents from how they were raised. And it's this whole generational process. Not that they were terrible, but that's just not who I wanted to be. And the other thing is, if you want to change and you're like, well, I actually want to be this person, start acting like that person this next second.
Yeah.
Who says you have to start tomorrow? Who says you have to make that change for your life in a year? Who says like everything you need to be what you want or who you want to be is already inside you? If you already have that thought that it's like, this is who I want to be, you have more inside you to do that than you realize. It's not going to be perfect. And I do believe in making small changes and not completely flipping your life right away, because that can be a lot. but start being that person.
Yeah.
Who
You've said
says,
that a couple times. You've
yeah,
said, who says, like at the very beginning, when we're talking about like the farm and like the stereotype or assumption that farms are going to be broke or struggle all the time. Who says? Other broke farmers? What about the farmers who are successful? What do
mm,
they say? You know what I mean? So hang out with those successful farmers. And same thing like you were just talking about of maybe I want to wait until New Year's to do something. Well, who says you have to wait till New Year's? Why can't you start right
I
now?
hate New Year's
I
resolutions because of
hate
that.
New Year's resolutions. I hate them.
Like if I
And
want to pick a new word, how about I pick a new word now? If I recognize it's time for a transition, let the transition happen.
yes, I was just talking about this as I'm so tired of living according to a calendar or a clock. I'm so over it. I don't want to wait till deadlines. I don't want to wait till a certain time or at this time we have to start this thing. Like I want to, which I don't know the answer yet, but this is part of my journey that I'm exploring is like, how do I start living this life where, yes, I'm earning an income, but I'm living a life, not just working? And how do I make it so that way I don't have to rush and live in this busyness? And that journey for me has looked like in this season of my life, being an entrepreneur that has flexibility to be where her kids need that her to be when I need to be there. For somebody else, that whole puzzle is going to look different. It's going to be made up of a lot different pieces. And I love that. Like, who says you can't do that? And
Well,
you go through like, I think it was like the 7 layers of why. Like, well, why do you think this? Well, why do you think that? Who says this? Where did you get that from? And then you eventually drill down to it's just a fear. That's
well,
actually what it usually boils down to.
it was like, especially, and I've gotten better. I consider myself a recovered perfectionist. I don't consider myself a perfectionist naturally, but growing up, I had a lot of friends who were perfectionists. I have family who were perfectionists. So then that inherently almost became part of my personality. And I've been trying to break that because I don't want to be. And it kind of kills me when I'm a perfectionist. But I was so hard on myself growing up. I mean, every little thing I would just beat myself up, and it lasted a long time. And I remember being in, it must have been junior high or high school. And I was like, well, people say this. And my mom's like, who? Who are the people? And I thought about it and I was like, it's just me. No
Yeah.
one has ever actually said that. And I still catch myself to this day when I'm like, oh, well, people think this. No, they don't. I'm assuming people will think that, but no one has
Who
ever
said
said
that?
that to me. No one has ever said that to me. I said that to myself. And who am I to not bet on myself? I gave the commencement address at my hometown high school in May, and the whole message was to bet on yourself. And I got back and I was like, huh, I guess I should take my own advice. Who says?
Yeah. Who says you have to take your own advice?
And don't make it, and don't make it you if it's something negative. If you go down like, why do I think this, those 7 layers of why, the who says, and it comes down to, well, I guess it's just me saying it. Stop. Write out
Mm,
a different belief. Say something else.
yeah. Yes. Katrina Klooster, she was on like episode 2 or 3. She and I hired her as a coach, like as I was really early on starting my business. And I hired her to help me with my business mindset because I had this employee mindset ingrained. I have to work from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And if I'm not doing something, then I'm not productive. And I had this activity equals productivity mindset. And so
Mm-hmm.
she helped me kind of unlearn, which was the best thing I ever did. And I think I've mentioned this before. If not, I'll say it again, is my coaches come in seasons, right? So like for a while, I needed a mindset coach, which was Katrina. And then I needed a physical health coach. So I hired a physical health coach because I had my business kind of situated. Now I wanted to work on me. And then I got kind of like out of that groove. And then I hired a like a business and marketing coach, and they really helped me with content and my website and stuff like that. And so like those all came in seasons, and I almost felt a little guilty when I like quote unquote broke up with my first coach because I don't need you anymore. because I've grown and that season has changed for me. And so my coaches have changed too. And I always tell people, like, once our coaching sessions are up and like, we've signed on for 3 months or something, if it makes sense for you, like, let's renew. But if it doesn't, what other coach can I introduce you to that can help you in the specific area of life or the season that you're in right here, right now? And I think that same concept can be applied to an operation or ranch, right? Like, right now, we're working on our human infrastructure and the personnel that we have here. That's where we need to focus. We've got that figured out. Okay, now we need to work on our processes and procedures. Now we need to work on XYZ. And I think, like, so often we can get stuck in those things of like, nope, I just got to constantly perfect this area, knowing that it will never be perfect because everything else around it is changing. So we just got to get the foundation in place, and then we can build or unbuild at the same time. And I love the concept of learning. And then what do I need to unlearn too? Because I don't recognize maybe that I have a bad habit until something comes up. Now I need to figure out how to reverse engineer it and tweak the spots along the way that have held me back.
Give yourself permission to change. Give yourself permission to do what's right for you. Give yourself permission to create your own picture of success. For me, even though I love my business and what I do, the perfect day is not me sitting and recording podcasts all day long. It's doing my morning routine. It's doing podcast work, doing a little bit of this and that. But by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I want to be at the ranch. I want to be outside. I want to be working. And it took me a long time to come to that realization that I had this picture that a successful entrepreneur had to work from dawn to dusk, until I was having back and neck problems in my early 20s because I was on the computer all the time. I wasn't happy. I was having other health issues. And I was like, oh, well, what if I just allowed myself to be physically active on the ranch and go do what I enjoy? And I'm still working, right? And I was like, once I came to the realization that, like, I don't want to be on the computer all the time, it was fine. Which is funny because I remember my first virtual internship with that corporate company. I was emailing my professor, right? Because it was for a credit or required for college. So I had to like check in with my advisor about how things were going. And I'm pretty sure in all caps, I was like, I hate being on the office from 8 or being on my computer from 8 to 5 every day with only 2 breaks. I was 20. So why did I try and keep stepping back into those positions just because that's what other people did who were successful? So give yourself permission to do what's right for you.
And I think that's why this podcast is so good for me, because my goal is to help other people and provide tools and resources and kind of some insights to their personal and professional development journey. But I am learning so much through this on my own too. Like, I'm not here to say, I have this all figured out, let me share it with you. Mm-hmm. This is my way of learning and growing too. And when we wrapped up the last week of AgriMinds just a couple of weeks ago, which, here's the plug, the next round of AgriMinds kicks off October 25th, doors open October 2nd, and they close October 11th. So make sure that you join the wait list if that's something that you're interested in, or shoot me a message and I can share more details. But when we wrapped up the first round of AgriMinds, at the end, everybody was talking through like their big key takeaways and some of the commitments that they were making now that AgriMinds was over. And I shared my big key takeaways too. And the amount of stuff that I learned, it was so cool. And I think that, that's a key takeaway too for people, is to say, like, you've never learned it all. You've never experienced it all. And the more information that you get, your opinion or your mindset is going to change, and like, accept it and just say, okay, I'm willing to accept this part, or you know what, that doesn't fit me right now, but I'm going to bottle it up and keep it there just in case I need to take that advice. But right now that's irrelevant to me. And just take that on and just know it's going to look different for you than it is anybody else. And it's a journey. It is such a journey. And I'm so glad that you took the time to come on here and share yours with us, Shaye. This is been so good. And I feel like we could probably talk for hours, and I think we bounced around just a little bit, but we touched on some really cool things. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on the AgriMinds podcast.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. And it's always an honor when people ask me to share my story. It means a lot to me. And I guess for any of your listeners out there, if they want to connect with me or learn more about what I'm doing, whether that's Rancher Minds podcast or even podcast coaching, my website is the best place to reach me, and that's casualcattleconversations.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put the links in the show notes as well. So, I have a lot to process and digest from this one, and I'll probably be listening back to it on my own, just, because we learn and we talk about so many things that I'll probably black out on and forget. But yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on.
All right. Well, thank you as well.